Thank you for joining us for this great topic about dancing and the impact on the brain. And my name is Sira Boats. I'm an occupational therapist and a dementia specialist, and we are here at Boats Memory Method to bring you hope on the dementia journey. Today we are interviewing a very interesting person, Mr. Richard Nally, who, among other things, are a dance instructor here locally, and dance has always fascinated me. Was a dancer myself in my young days. My children were dancers, and as an occupational therapist, I've always believed that dance is a form of therapy. So dance combined with music, but even furthermore, the impact of dancing on the aging brain to me is fascinating. Richard, will you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, Sarah, for having me. My name is Richard Nally. I'm a self-taught dance instructor. I was enlisted in the Coast Guard and trained in the Hospital Corps School, and I've got that training to be a nurturer, a nurse, and a provider. I've carried that through to my dancing prowess. I started teaching dancing about 20 years ago. An instructor I was taking classes from got a job and moved away from Gainesville and asked if I would continue her class. One of her students, and I took it upon myself and taught that class for 10 long years, 2 nights a week, beginning ballroom, beginning waltz, socials, swing dance, etc.
That is amazing. And right now you're actually teaching a dance class for seniors as well. Tell us about that.
Yes, I teach at the Village of Gainesville. It's an adult living community, and one of their social activities is a monthly ballroom dance to live band music. And I was asked to teach these residents a 1.5-hour class once a month just prior to the dance, and they are loving it. The class is growing, and I'm having a great time, and that's what led me to you.
Yes, it did. And we had a lovely chance meeting, and you have a love for dance and I have a love for dance, and we both have a love for the geriatric population, especially for those suffering with dementia, and how we can better assist them. And so that brings us here today, talking about the power of dance and music and how it stimulates our brain. But take me back a little bit and tell me about the types of dance that you have experienced during your life growing up, and just what type of dance do you enjoy most?
I enjoy the waltz, I enjoy the swing dance, I enjoy the hustle. They're all contact dances where you have a partner that you're connected to, not a freestyle. Growing up, my mom and dad danced monthly, 2 or 3 times a month at the church dances, social dances, and I would go to many of them. Mom and Dad met when they were 16 years old at summer lake camp dancing, and they courted, and 10 years later they married. And so I have music and dance in my genes.
In your genes, it came from a very young age and just organically flowed one thing into the next.
I was drafted in 1972 into the Coast Guard and went on to Hospital Corps training. In that training, I saw 2 women doing a great jitterbug dance, and I wanted to learn that. Maybe to meet girls, I don't know why. But one of the ladies and her husband taught me how to do the jitterbug, and it has taken off in my life. And I've been doing it for 53 years, dancing it and teaching for the last 19 years.
That is amazing. And you were telling me that you actually have some Alzheimer's, persons living with Alzheimer's that is in your class that's wheelchair bound, but when they're in your class, you see something very special. Do you want to share with us?
Oh, yes. I have 2 residents at the Village. One comes to class with her walker. I don't ask a woman how young she is, but she is walker bound, doesn't go without it, and she has COPD and requires an oxygen concentrator. a portable. So I teach her and I dance with her at the monthly dances. Her kinesthetics, her balance, her gait has improved dramatically. We've had 6 dance classes of an hour and a half and 6 dances, ballroom dances of about 2 hours each. And with the friends and dance hosts that I bring to the dances, friends that are accomplished dancers, we keep her on her feet as much as she wants. Her energy and duration is so remarkable. She doesn't need the walker when we're in dancing, and she can carry herself without difficulty.
That's
she can
amazing.
move back and forth and even perform turns.
That is amazing. Can you imagine what it does to our confidence and our self-image to come to this event and being able to participate at that level?
Yes, and her self-image has gotten us feedback that she feels that we're not dancing with her enough. God bless her.
That's wonderful.
My other student with Parkinson's just came to the class for the first time last month, and then the dance. She came to the dance in an electric motorized scooter. And she said, I have a difficulty. I have Parkinson's and I'll need to sit frequently. I said, just let me know when you need to, and if you need my help sitting down, I'm here for you. She danced 80 of the 90 minutes of our dance class.
How encouraging.
Without having to lean on somebody or stop. And that's our first encounter, but she danced at the dance. She's coming back to tomorrow's dance class and then this Saturday's dance. I've seen an improvement in their gait and their memory and their recall of the dances.
That is so amazing to me, and this is anecdotally supports what research has told us over decades. And I've read many research articles, and Richard was so kind of bringing me 2 articles, and I'm going to have him touch on it. I'm going to just give you the information on the articles. The one, basically, both of these articles are based off of the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York City, who published an article in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2003. There's a Harvard article that cites that study, and then his good friend, the dance teacher in Stanford, also wrote an article citing this study. And like I said, there's so many studies that talks about dancing and movement and how it improves our neurocognitive function. But I would like your take, Richard, on the study and what it tells us about dancing.
Thank you. I've had the pleasure of dancing at weekend workshops with Richard Powers, the dance historian and vintage dance authority in this world, this entire continent, on vintage dancing, the history of it, the ins and the outs, and his regular workshops. Richard cited this study many years ago that there was a reduction of the onset of dementia and the severity of dementia, Alzheimer's, and even partial recovery from lack of cognition and memory. This study shows that partner dancing, not Zumba, not standalone, and the activities that require us to think and act on a split second, spur of the moment. When I give my partner a request to do a turn, she has to interpret that and try to turn, and when I watch her come back, it teaches both of us. It teaches the leads and the follows to interact on a very, very sensitive issue. Movement, reply, response, request, and the ability to make those decisions. It keeps us agile and it keeps the brain. And most importantly, what it does is it increases the neurons, the connectors, the operator who used to use the push-in wire connection
Yes.
to the caller and the sender. It says, the body says, I need more connections to the brain. The brain says, I need to connect to the muscles. you create more synapses that have atrophied and died off during your aging years. So every time we make a split-second decision, we create a new neuron and a new pathway. It's like finding a new route to your house from the shopping center. There are 3 or 4 routes you can take in case one is
So you're stimulating through having this novel activity of learning a new movement pattern and responding to a partner. You literally stimulating those neural pathways to reconnect and to reestablish, and you're stimulating new neurons to grow. But you said something very interesting. You talked about the stimulation of the senses when we're dancing.
Yes, dancing incorporates 4 of our 5 senses, and if somebody puts on too much cologne or perfume, I guess it takes up the 5th of smell. But the sight, sound, touch, and are all stimulated simultaneously, consecutively. And the more connections you make to an action or emotion, the quicker and easier it is to do it again and to repeat it. And it trains the body to make more neurons to connect us to these activities. So the more senses, the more ways you can learn something. And we're not doing a dance that's repeated, such as Zumba. It's a great cardiovascular activity, but it does not seem to have any effect on cognition. Now, performing puzzles and brain acuity and testing and training and making your brain think these activities through, we're putting them into action, into motion. And that motion...
It's a 3D expression of...
Thank you.
Yes, it's exactly. A 3D expression of movement patterns. And there's a concept in sensory re-education in children too, is put them, if they have a hard time learning letters, for example, draw a letter on the ground and have them walk the letter out, and somehow our brain interpret the 3D experience differently than when I'm just writing it out. So when you're talking about I'm doing puzzles, or maybe I'm just doing word games and Sudoku, that is a 2D experience using my mental acuity. But when I'm moving and dancing, I am placing a novel challenge on my brain to express all these different inputs that I'm getting through seeing where I'm moving, hearing the beat of the music, and then feeling my partner telling me the next movement. That's a very complex brain interaction to express that 3D accurately. Also, there needs to be a safety awareness. Where do I move? Where's the other couples? How do I place my body? And it challenges our balance center. So how do I keep myself upright right in space in connection with my partner? So it becomes really this beautiful expression of brain ability.
Sarah, I have an interesting story that I'd like to share with you about dance and memory. My girlfriend, whose mother was afflicted with Alzheimer's 12 years ago, girlfriend introduced me as her dance teacher. The sister had 20 years of ballet training with another dance teacher, but dance was always in the family. And when mom got to the end stage of her Alzheimer's, where she didn't recognize her own daughter, thinking she was really her sister, my girlfriend said, "But Mom, who is this guy?" And she said, "That's Richard, the dance teacher." Mom remembered me. I was a new input into her memory, and she always remembered me as a dance teacher, Richard, the dance teacher, when she couldn't identify her own daughter. I was so thrilled to be there at that moment.
Richard, this has been so delightful and insightful and hopeful, knowing that even in our later years, even when we're already experiencing brain decline, we can still dance. And that when we dance, we are changing our brain, we're improving our brain. And not only are we having joy, and not only do we have that interaction, we I have done a segment on neurotransmitters. When we're touching somebody, we're releasing oxytocin that supports our brain health. When we're moving, exercising, we release endorphins, which supports our brain health. And then when we're together celebrating music, celebrating love, a life, through the expression of dance, that's dopamine is being released. So on top of all these other components that we talked about, we're stimulating neurotransmitters. So it really becomes a beautiful dance, excuse the pun, where we're really impacting our brain. And it's so exciting to know and so hopeful to know that through this very pleasurable activity that we can impact our future of our brain health. Richard, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your passion and in allowing our aging population, our persons living with dementia, to engage in this wonderful activity.
Yes, thank you, Sarah, for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us. For more content, please follow us and subscribe to YouTube, and also go to our website, boatsmemorymethod.com, where you can sign up for our free newsletter.